Okay, I can go from here. First of all, I'm very pleased to be attending this event. I see a lot of great people with exclusive and highly needed activities. Maybe one take that I have from what I have seen today. I'm pretty much sure that you have done all that you could have done by providing the facts that is needed to actually completely comprehend the state of the forest and what needs to be done to improve that state. Like, there's no depth in this regard. Unfortunately, there is a bug within the trajectory from scientists and NGOs to decision makers and to implementation of those facts in the field. And I will come to that bug maybe later. But I think that we really need to work on tackling of this bug. I will come to that in more detail later. Okay, so I just arrived from Brussels yesterday. So I'm on a weekly basis in European Parliament. And this week was sort of extraordinary because Commission just announced that it will delay the deforestation regulation by a year. Okay, it was announced quite ridiculously. Commission tends to strengthen support for EU deforestation regulation implementation, and that's why it proposes extra 12 months of phasing in time responding to calls by global partners. So this is a joke. You know, the global partners, I would suggest, or I would guess it was Brazil and USA, or some other global partners who are actually responsible for the deforestation in the first place. So they were despised that proposal, and they asked for delaying as maybe a first step. So the Commission was very welcoming to that proposal, and at the same time they actually stressed they want to strengthen the implementation. You know, so how can you strengthen something by delaying it? I don't follow that. Maybe some information from the parliamentary kitchen. If you ask me, I would say that the deforestation regulation was the best law that we actually approved in the previous term within the merits of Green Deal that was related to forests. By far, it was approved by the time where there were no strong tendencies to somehow water down anything that was related to soil, to forest, to agriculture, to anything, which was the case in the second part of the mandate. So it was quite a lucky law because it was approved quite early, and it was really effective. It introduced a lot of new tools, unprecedented tools, you know, regarding the traceability, regarding the due diligence, regarding the responsibility of us, the Europeans, being responsible for maybe 15% of the global deforestation. And a special aspect of that forest was, of that regulation was that it was dealing with global deforestation, but by doing that, it was also focusing on our own territory, our own European territory. That I was very proud of that because I was part of that movement that actually fight for this aspect, and we were successful at the end. And I can see that it's a little bit pain in the neck for many, especially the proud Europeans who simply cannot think of Europe where deforestation is taking place. Like, come on, based on what figures? We have more forest than ever. You know, so what we were actually trying to stress with that proposal was not that we are actually losing the area that is being forested in a way or other, but what we are very much losing is the resilience of the forest, the quality of the forest, the connectivity of the forest, the biodiversity of the forest, you know, the drill. So that's why we actually said that, okay, global forest, that goes also for European forest, and we need to do our homework and stop the deterioration of forest areas throughout Europe, which is the fact, simple and very obvious fact. And I think that this Focusing on our own territory is probably the basic principle why there is still a lot of resistance regarding this file, and we see it being pronounced right now. It started just after the elections, when it was clear who the next MEPs will be. And a colleague of mine coming from the EPP from Austria, Alexander Bernhuber, during the summer break, sent a series of letters to the Commission addressing Ursula von der Leyen, asking her to postpone this regulation, like 7 letters, something like that. We also sent some, when realizing that this is happening, but yeah. The reasoning in those letters were that actually the IT platform that is needed for this regulation to be properly implemented and used by the stakeholders, being covered by the regulation, is not ready. The Commission was supposed to publish it somewhere around December this year or something like that, and it's nowhere to be seen, like no one really knows what the IT environment will be, and the Commission is saying that they simply are not able to make it in that time. What I know is that it's already in the drawer for quite a long time, and it is being, simply postponed deliberately by the Ursula herself, So that's her ruling in the Commission. She said, okay, keep it there. Don't publish it. Maybe, I don't know. It's just, maybe a rumor, maybe not. I would say that it's not a rumor, but okay, it has been postponed. Like the publishing of the IT platform. So the stakeholders really miss the very important tool, but the reason for that is not that the tool is not existent, probably, this sort of political process. So actually the EPP is asking the EPP to postpone the regulation because the EPP responsible for providing us with the necessary tool is behind the schedule, because the EPP actually wants it to be behind the schedule. So there's a lot of EPP in my sentence, maybe you actually get the point. So right now it's being postponed by a year. And again, quite an important member of EPP, Herbert Dorfmann, stated in his reaction that, and this is actually what we wanted to achieve, the postponement and the postponement only. We will not so far do any steps in order to open the whole regulation and try to alter it somehow, So it's not about the content, it's about the timeline. If someone like Herbert Dorfmann actually stresses that they are not intended to actually get into the file and wash it down, then I'm starting to be alerted. It's sort of mirroring what is going to come. But well, let's see. What the options that we have right now in the plenary, and the smoothest and less or least dangerous option is that we will actually approve this proposal of Commission to postpone this legislation by a year, and doing it by so-called, I have to find that term, sorry for that, some sort of fast track, process, which will, during which this regulation will be improved only in the plenary and in the council based on the very slight changes proposed by the Commission. That means that it will not need to be approved in the committees. Okay, so in that way we could approve it before the December this year, where it originally was supposed to be effective, or being implemented in the field. By improving this in this fast manner, we will be able to avoid, allowing the political groups to get into the content and try to somehow alter that content of the regulation, which will be a disaster, as you can probably see. So it's not a nice position, because I would really love to see this regulation being in the field as proposed. So it means by the end of this year. But again, I have to be preventive, or we all need to be preventive, and really, in our very interest is to maintain the proposal or the regulation as it was, well, already approved by in the trialogues by the member states, by the parliament. So it's valid, it should come into action like unchanged. And we will see. It will be very interesting, also from that position, or from that perspective, where you see a lot of activities ignoring processes, ignoring facts, ignoring necessities, but still having a strong impact on the decision-making process that is happening right now in the parliament and in the commission, maybe in the council as well. This is not the only file that has been affected by this sort of attitude, this sort of access. We can now come to another file which is being attacked or addressed by the same manner, that is Habitat Directive, and the well-known case of wolf killing that is being proposed right now by the council themselves. Really a massive change of course, like several months ago, like the council was really not willing to actually do something with the wolf in the terms of opening, Habitat Directive and Berne Convention and all that stuff. Now we have the decision of the council, I don't know, a week ago or something like that. It's quite fresh, where only Spain and Ireland was against actually opening the Berne Convention. Because if you want to really change Habitat Directive and shift wolf from one annex to another in order to be possible to cool it, based on quotas, you need to first open the Berne Convention, which is a convention that was signed by more European states than only the 27 that are currently being part of the European Union. But from the majority of the states, the 27, now the council actually sends signal that it wants to open it, and now the Commission will actually send this proposal to the ruling committee of the Berne Convention. The sitting will be somewhere in December, and well, I think they will actually rule, or they will actually decide that the European population of wolf should be replaced from the category strictly protected into category protected, which means virtually lowering its protection status. And that would then allow for the Commission to propose the opening of the Habitat Directive. We don't know the end of that, of course, but following the situation, following the narratives, I would, of course, not expect nothing else than actually lowering and that sort of massive shift from strictly protected, let's say, German wolf populations to annex that allows the quotas, just like in Slovakia, for instance, which is a messy stuff, I can tell you. Again, Herbert Dorfman already mentioned, stresses that, it was not Herbert Dorfman, sorry, it was the Germany themselves, the government of Germany, said they don't want to open the whole Habitat Directive, and this change will target only and only wolves, okay? Again, I don't think this will be what we will see or what we will witness. What I'm afraid is that by this step, the Commission is actually opening sort of Pandora box, which could result in a cascade of opening of the Habitat Directive and of its annexes and shifting dozens of species from the category strictly protected into some lower categories. If you want to name them, wolf, bear, lynx, I don't know, wolverine, whale, sorry, not whales, seals, otter, beaver, whatever there might be some conflict of interest with fisheries, agriculture, forestry, I don't know, urban encroachment. All those species are at risk. And we don't know where it will end, but it could really trigger sort of lowering of the overall Natura 2000 scheme throughout Europe. And based on the situation where we see a strict rise of far-right parties all over the Europe, which are really attacking the idea of nature protection and conservation, I really can't comprehend how Commission themselves can actually play with the fire like that. And what is even more intriguing, they do it despite there is no scientific foundation for these steps. 6 months ago, Commission, during a hearing in plenary, stated very clearly that there's no need for culling of wolves, that all the preventive measures that are there on the table are effective ones when properly used, when properly implemented, that you can reduce the damages done by wolves by 90 or 85% when you have dogs, when you have fences, electric fences, when you have shepherds, and even if that all falls, then the member states have the capability of cooling individual wolves, like the last resort option. Like everything is there on the table, and even and that the member states actually can use money from, for instance, common agriculture policy, to reduce the damages or to buy the supplements and all that stuff. So that was Commission itself, and then the elections were really close, and Ursula von der Leyen herself simply changed the direction completely. Stressing that there is no other chance than to start to reduce the wolf population because it will otherwise destroy the agriculture or farmers and sheep agriculture. I don't know what excuse that was, and everybody is actually talking about her pony, which was killed by wolves, and that is a sort of personal revenge from her side. I don't know, maybe. But even if that didn't happen or hasn't happened, I'm pretty much sure that the EPP, again, the party, this is very in concordance with their DNA of presenting themselves as the protectors of farmers, by any means needed and possible, but not those effective ones, but this sort of greenwashing stuff is very much close to them. So they want to protect the Little Red Riding Hood from the bad wolf. That's the essence of that struggle. And I'm very actually unhappy about the situation because as I think of it, it simply introduces a derogation from a rule of law. Rule of law that is based on solid science and facts and methodology and laws and rules that we all actually respect. This is bypassing all of that. Just like that, because somebody wants it. And somebody uses it in the elections as a tool, how to win some percentage. I don't think this is the way that the European Union should be working on. It's going very contrary. So when my first speaker was talking about the EU playing a significant role in fighting the Euroscepticism, this is the other situation. When EU themselves are actually introducing steps that will very much lower the credibility of the institutions themselves. If you deliver this kind of crap, it has to have an impact, and that impact is not very good. The Euroscepticism might spread because of that. They are not protecting farmers; they are lowering the credibility of the institution because they are deciding based on false arguments. So this is difficult. Okay. But there are also some good aspects, or not that bad aspects of Habitat Directive. I was quite surprised to see when our Hungarian colleague was presenting the situation in Hungarian forests, where even the Natura 20,000 sites are being cut by clear cuts, or being, like affected by clear cuts quite heavily, because we know that there are several infringements where different member states are actually being assessed because of activities like that. It's the case of Slovakia and the copper-killy habitats. It was salvage logging, that was not properly assessed. But the essence of that infringement was that we are actually destroying the habitats of the protected species by inappropriate activities. And I think this is the same case with the clear cuts in Natura 2000 sites. Well, how can they be in accordance with the what's the term? The state of the habitats, like, what do we need to good conservation status of that habitats? That cannot be. So I wonder why there is no infringement against Hungary in this regard. If it's so pronounced, it needs to be done. Despite I understand that the situation in Hungary is very complex and difficult one. So maybe there's no time for forests right now, and they need to tackle some other issues. But I think that there's no time to wait for that. So if an infringement could have been held against Slovakia and Romania, and I'm not sure, Estonia maybe, yes, why not Hungary? If we need to stay strict to the rules that we all agreed on. So I would suggest to actually try to exploit that option if it's not been done yet. But the infringements are a good tool, yeah, of course, but it took very long for them to come to the phase when they are effective. Like the case in Slovakia, the copper-killy habitats, the infringement started in 2020. And in 2022, there was a court ruling found Slovakia to be guilty of trespassing the regulations, and we needed to stop the salvage logging in copper-killy habitats. It's 2024, and we still haven't seen the final decision. After that, despite we know of several cases where Slovakia again, after the court, trespassed what it was supposed to follow. So there probably will be another court coming. We probably have to wait when there's when there's a new commission on the place. But from what I know, the penalty, which will be probably inevitable, is ridiculously small, or proposed to be ridiculously small. So I'm really wondering about the effect. Maybe a third court will solve it, like in 3 years or 4 years, I don't know. Until then, we are losing habitats, because it's not effective enough. The same goes for the infringement in Romania. Like primary forests are being destroyed there on a daily basis, And it was very fast, the first step and the second step took only like several months until it happened. But after that, silence. And there's only this dialogue between Romania and Commission, but at the same time, we are losing those forests. So it's not very effective, But then again, it's process-wise, it's quite difficult to somehow improve that. Okay, and maybe last thing, and again, not the best news that I have, goes on the forest monitoring law. We still don't know the schedule when the Parliament will deal with this file. We have some news coming from Council, where it is very clear that the member states want to water down the Commission's proposal, especially in the field of the indicators. Like they want to get rid of the indicator, like the localization of old growth forest and primary forest, for instance. So that shows very well what their attitude actually towards that legislation is. In Parliament, the rapporteur for this file is my colleague from my own group, Emma Wiesner, coming from Sweden. When I was talking to her about that file, she said that her ambition is not to crawl the proposal of the commission, so not to get lower. So, but I don't think that she will achieve to actually stay at the same level based on what I see in the parliament. And again, one detail, I was also very much interested in being the rapporteur of this file, but during the negotiation between the groups, Renew was able to actually achieve that file or be assigned to that file only under one conditions, that I will not be the rapporteur. Like that was the conditions coming from EPP probably again, and some other groups. But to me intriguing is that my own group was okay with that. And the coordinator back then was Niels Torvalds from Finland, and he was very happy that he could give the file to her colleague from Sweden. So again, forest monitoring law will be dominantly affected or directed by colleagues coming from Nordic countries, which usually is not a good sign regarding its effectiveness. We will see. We will fight for that. So if you are asking me about the tools, the legislative tools, how to improve the situation in forests, these are the tools. And you see that they are being quite heavily attacked right now. It might be related to the current composition of the parliament. It might be related to the current situation throughout Europe, when we see many negative things appear, far right on the rise somehow. And unfortunately, the response of the pro-European forces is actually not fighting the far right, but adopting part of their agenda. What kind of policy is that? It's not even short term. It's fall. Like by adopting part of that agenda, you are actually rehabilitating them. You should be fighting them. They have been like attacking the Green Deal from the very beginning. And now, at the end of the last mandate, the groups, or again EPP, the biggest group in the parliament, who was part of the majority that approved Green Deal, was actually adopting the same narratives and attacking the Green Deal from their side. This is sick. The outcome of that was that during the election, using or utilizing this populism kind of narratives and a lot of false arguments, they actually won the elections. EPP won the election, but at the same time, the far-right party is the third strongest one in the parliament. So it was a mutual effect, And what has been lost is the pro-European core. It has become weaker. It's still dominant, but the edge is very, very, very narrow. So I don't think that this is the good way to go. And so I told you about the bug in the very beginning. You have the data. You are there in the field trying to reach out for us. You provide us with the data. I know that. So everything is really done very good until now. But then what happens is that the politicians actually are not responsive enough. They ignore that. And they don't translate it into their legislation. And what happens then is that there is silence, sort of silence. There are some general statements, like, again, we failed again, this policy is scrap. But there's always some MEP behind that proposal, and you can track them back to the very first amendment, and you can see the responsibility, why that legislation ends up in that wicked way. And I think that what we really missed is this control, this direct, this personal signal that, hey, man, we met with you. We showed you the news data. They were published in Nature. If you want to protect forests, you cannot harvest biomass like crazy. And despite that, you were aware of the situation. You decided quite contrary. So you are the one responsible for this sad situation. You, Herbert Dorfman, or, name and shame, please. And that name and shaming must come from the scientists themselves. If they provide solid data and these data are being ignored, the least they can do is stress that. Like, based on what do you actually decide on these issues, fellow MEPs? It's not based on data, it's contrary to the data, to the best data available. So what messy job you are doing. I think that might help these people, if they are sensitive to something, it's to a personal criticism directed towards them. I know that. But it's not the criticism that might come from me to another MEP. You know, that's part of the struggle. It's part of the business. You know, it's okay. We don't take it personally because it's politicians to politicians. But that signal needs to come from some other authority, scientific authority. Let it be like that. You know, NGOs. Okay, be strong. Be present in the field, and public. If the European policy reacts to something, it's two factors. It's the crisis. We can see it, but they react only after the crisis is already there. So they react. They are not proactive in this regard. So okay, but at least they react, and then they react to protests. That is very effective. So in 2019, there were protest Fridays for the Future, and then voila, we had Green Deal. And then at the end of the mandate, we had farmers' protests, and then we have the attack on the Green Deal again. So think about it in this way. It needs to be navigated because it's about life, you know.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you.